The situation... The situation even worse. The situation's even worse than I thought. As we'd expected, afternoon classes had been cancelled, since hardly any teachers came. There was no homework. But we had been told to go home and stay indoors. I can't do that, though. It would be one thing if the situation would settle down if left alone, but since it was a dream, I couldn't leave things to other people. And I was worried about not being able to get a hold of you or Yosaki. I wonder if Alice and Hirosaka are behaving. Not likely. I wished I was at least had them with me, but...
かえっておとなしくしてます。ええ、大丈夫ですとも。
Hirosaka had said before going off somewhere, she certainly hadn't gone home. And after mooching off of me at lunch, Alice had produced the key and gone somewhere too. But I could only let her be. She was too much for me. But really, what kind of illness is it? It seemed to only have spread across the Suikyo area because it wasn't national news. But the local news was hardly functioning due to the lack of people, and the town seemed to be closed off. I knew it would be bad if the virus or whatever spread, but there were a lot of people who needed to go out. I investigated the maniac a little too, but came up with nothing. Maybe there really was one, or maybe they were just making sure that... but I'd seen more police officers around than usual, and they stopped me several times. In an emergency like this, I thought the Hosono family would take the initiative and patrol the area, but I didn't see them at all. Maybe they got sick too. Worried about Saki, I went to the Hosono estate, but the gate was closed and no one answered when I rang the doorbell. I thought about sneaking inside, but I was afraid of the security system, so I gave up. If there really is a maniac, then I suppose it would be best to catch them first. But it would be no laughing matter if I got hit with a surprise attack, so I was unsure if I should. Could I alter the dream to my convenience somehow? Who is it? Tetsuya? Hello? Seeing the number, I answered the phone.
おう、俺だ、トール。お前にちょっと大事な話があるんだけど、いいか?
Something important.
弥生さんに関わることなんだ。
With Yoi? What is it?
ちょっと待ってくれ。電話じゃ話しづらい。これから出てこられるか?
Sure. That's fine, but where should I go?
そうだな。お前の学校に行く途中の角でいいか?
Yeah, that works, I guess.
よかった。そんじゃあ俺もそっち向かうから、そこで合流な。
It seems like a random place to talk about this. You could have gone to his apartment, but sure. But what's going on? What happened to you? What happened to Yoi? What happened to Yoi?
悪い。会うまで言えねえ。んじゃまた後でな。
Tetsuya? Hey, Tetsuya! The mechanical tone of an ended call repeated on the phone. What had happened with Yoi? I gave up on going home, deciding to head to the meeting spot with Tetsuya instead. Hopefully nothing weird was happening. I started to feel like this is the precursor for something weird to happen. Even as I talked to myself, I was worried about what happened to Yayoi, so I quickened my pace.
おう、トール。なんだ、思ったより早かったな。
After what you said, how could I not? I'd speed walked here, so I was a little out of breath. I hadn't expected Tetsuya to already be here.
悪いな、急に呼び出したりしてよ。
Is this the first time we're seeing this background? Or have we seen this background before and I'm just misremembering? Because, you know, I can guarantee we haven't seen this background a lot. That's okay. But what happened to Yayoi?
ああ、それなんだけど、トール。お前、今日、弥生さんに会ったり連絡取ったりしたか?
No, I haven't seen her. But why?
いや、なんか弥生さんがやばい相手に喧嘩売ったって話聞いてな。
Uh-huh. I had a bad feeling about this. Someone dangerous? You don't mean that maniac from the rumors, do you?
そんな感じだと思う。俺も詳しくは知らないんだけどよ。
Do you know any more? Where is Yui now?
なあ、待て、慌てるなって。それで、恵子ちゃんも弥生さんのこと探してたらしくて、巻き込まれそうになったらしいんだよ。
Hirosaka too? What was she doing after... She said she'd go home. I mean, not that I actually expected her to go home, but...
そっちは朝日がなんとか捕まえたらしいから。とりあえず合流しようぜ。詳しい話はみんな揃ってからでいいだろ。
Alright, I guess it would be better if Hirosaka was with us. I was relieved to hear that Hirosaka was safe, but things hadn't improved with Yui and Alice. And Alice was probably doing something reckless too. Wait, catch her?
よし、そんじゃあ行こうぜ。
Tetsuya slapped my shoulder, urging me to walk. Okay. I started walking when I felt a sudden chill. Tetsuya. When I tried to turn around, he grabbed my shoulder firmly. I had a really bad feeling about this. Hey, Tetsuya, what are you doing? Tetsuya's fingers dug into my shoulder. It was as if he was squeezing it with pliers, and I couldn't shake him off at all.
ああ、もうちょっとおとなしくしてりゃ気づかずに仲間に入れたのによ。
Oh, okay. I was suspicious as to why he didn't want to meet at Toru's apartment, but his tone was the same as usual, but his hold on me was serious. There even seemed to be a couple of fangs in his mouth. What do you mean, one of you? Although I pretty much knew by now this dream was going to be that sort of dream.
この街中で広がってる病気と通り魔だよ。そろそろ分かってるんじゃないのか？
I sort of did when Toru brought up the fangs, but listen, the only reason I didn't think about it like that before was because this wasn't ever a thing in any other route. And Tetsuya grinned. I could see that his fangs were very sharp. Shit, I knew it. Damn it, that's so cliche. Whose dream is this?
何言ってるかわけわかんねえけど、俺もさっき朝日に仲間にしてもらったよ。
I'm sure you enjoyed it. He grabbed both my shoulders. I couldn't get away.
いや、俺もさ、どうせなら恵子ちゃんとか弥生さんの血を吸いたいわけよ。なのにとりあえずお前を仲間にしろってうるさくてよ。
Nagging you? Asahi?
ああ、まあそんなところだな。まあ、仲間になればわかるさ。
Tetsuya opened his mouth, seemingly a little reluctant. He bared his fangs at me. Listen, bro, there's a little gay. He was a vampire no matter how you looked at it. And he was bringing his mouth closer to my neck. Like I said, a bit gay. Oh, wait, damn it, stop! But Tetsuya wouldn't stop. His fangs drew closer. I tried to get free, but I was no match in terms of strength. This was bad. Just when I was about to try and alter the dream, there came a whooshing sound. Tetsuya suddenly released my shoulders and staggered a few steps. I took the opportunity to move out of his reach.
くそ、誰か。
When Tetsuya turned around to face the darkness, I realized there was an arrow sticking out of his back. What? There were more whooshes as Tetsuya's body shook. He dropped to his knees. Someone's footsteps approached from the darkness.
やれやれ。間一髪ってところだったわね。
Listen, Yuyoi, it isn't what it looks like, alright? I'm straight, I swear. Listen, it's because, he's a vampire. That's why. Yuyoi? Wait, what? Wait. Flip those around. Why? What? Why? Wait. What is this? Yuyoi was holding the crossbow. Where'd she get that from? She must have used it to stick Tetsuya with those arrows.
弥生さん、何撃ったんですか？体、 全然動かねえんですけど。
それ、一応伝承通りに白木で作った矢なんだけど、杭じゃなくても大丈夫なのね。
Yeah, I was gonna say, is it silver tipped, but that's werewolves.
そうそう。あとうちって一応そっち系だから、聖水とかもその気になれば用意できるのよ。
I wonder if they use the how do I say? Because okay, obviously there are things that vampires are known for, right? Like how they drink blood, how they hate garlic, how they can be killed by a wooden stake, something. Something I only found out recently is that one of the rules is that a vampire cannot enter your house without being invited. Right? You can't invite... You have to invite a vampire in to, you know, for them to be able to enter your apartment. I'm curious if that's a rule here, but at the same time, that wouldn't apply in this situation because Toru isn't suspicious of Tetsuya. So it's not like he'd be like, you know, testing if Tetsuya was a vampire by not inviting him into his apartment, right? Or something like that. Yeah, and the holy water thing. In other words...
見ての通り、哲也は吸血鬼の仲間になってたってことね。
That's pretty much what I'd been thinking. Now that the circumstances of the dream made sense. It looked like Tetsuya couldn't move, but I still gave him a wide berth as I moved to stand next to Yuyoi, and also all of the stuff I said about how this dream was Yuyoi's because, you know, a pandemic would make it impossible for her to leave the country. That's all out the window. Right? This isn't a pandemic. This is a fucking vampire thing. It looked like Tetsuya couldn't move it. Yeah, okay, I said that. So that talk about illness and maniacs was all because of vampires trying to increase their numbers.
そうみたいね。私もすぐに仲間にされそうになって逃げたんだけど、携帯電話がなくなって連絡も取れなかったのよ。
Yoi also kept her eyes on Tetsuya as we talked. So, what should we do?
セオリー通りに行くなら、親玉を倒せば多分夢は終わると思うんだけど。
No, I mean about him.
ああ、くそ！どうせなら弥生さんを襲って返り討ちにされたかったな。
Tetsuya complained, looking like a toy whose batteries were on the verge of running out. I'm starting to feel like it would be fine to deliver the finishing blow now. It's just a dream after all. Once it was over, it would most likely be as though nothing had happened.
私もそうしても大丈夫かなって思うわ。
待て！何言ってんのお前ら！どれ、俺たち友達だろ！あと弥生さん！俺妹の彼氏っすよ！
大丈夫！ちゃんと朝日も後で同じところに送ってあげるから。
Yeah, no hard feelings, Tetsuya. You won't even feel anything. It won't hurt a bit. That's something a villain would say, isn't it? I took a few steps away from Yuyoi's side.
大丈夫よ。すぐにはとどめなんて刺さないから。
本当？マジで。いや、何でもするから助けて。これそんなに痛くないんだけど、マジで動けねえんだよ。
Tetsuya seemed to have gone numb where the arrows had struck. He was still crouching like he really couldn't move.
そういえば哲也、あなたさっき、恵子が朝日に捕まったとか言ってたわよね。
Tetsuya jumped in surprise and looked away from us.
とりあえずそのあたりのことをハキハキ聞かせてもらおうじゃないの。
俺に朝日を売れって言うのか？そんなことできるか？だったらいっそとどめを刺してくれ！
Tetsuya, you're...
なあ、 頼むよトール。お前だって弥生さんのためならそう言うだろう。わかるだろう。
Yeah, but that's a different matter. Club Prez, these guys have classic kinds of weak points, right? Sunlight, holy water, wooden stakes, crosses, and garlic. What else was there? Right, For some reason, sunlight, which, you know, you would think is the most common weakness of a vampire, I did not mention. I brought up the stakes, crosses, I guess, garlic, and not really holy water, but that's, you know, whatever. That holy water is linked to Christianity. That's why vampires became a thing in the first place, right? Same thing with the crosses. It's whatever. But the reason why I didn't bring up sunlight was because of all of the shows that show vampires in the sun. I'm not bringing up Twilight, but there are others.
そうね。あ、だけど、信仰心のない十字架は多分意味がないわよ。
In that case, a garlic bath?
鬼、悪魔、なんでそうなるんだ。
Idiot. Hirasaki's in danger, and I can't get a hold of Saki. According to my priorities, if it's to help them, I'll gladly abandon you. It wasn't just a dream after all.
くそ、男の友情よりも女を選ぶのか。くそ、ちくしょう。だけど俺でもそうする。そうだよな。
I wonder if Keiko actually could turn into a vampire. Because, like, you know, Tetsuya, Asahi, everyone else, right? They're not actually in the dream. Right? It's different for Yayoi, Saki, Keiko, Alice, and Toru, who have come into the dream. Right? I guess. It's a weird way of saying it, but they're the only ones that are actually in the dream and were not generated by and were not made for the dream. Right?
だったら納得してくれたところで、ハキハキ喋ってくれないかしら。
いや、弥生さん、それはやっぱ。
Yuyoi crashed next to Tetsuya and ran a finger along his neck.
教えてくれたら、ご褒美をあげてもいいんだけど。
ご褒美っすか？
Tetsuya gulped. His eyes brightened. Not in that way. What are you thinking? Yuyoi, I realize my current feelings must have been how Saki felt, so I couldn't help but feel a little guilty. But suddenly a crossbow fitted with a silver arrow was pressed against Tetsuya's chest.
さ、どうする？
Hang on a minute. Actually, no, I already brought that up. Tetsuya looked back and forth between the grinning Yayoi and her crossbow. He gave a nervous laugh. We were standing in front of the school.
まさか学校が根城になってるとはね。
It's always the school. Actually, I shouldn't say that because Saki's route centered around the building, the Suikyo building. Yeah, I wonder if Tetsuya's okay. And technically so did Keiko, but hers also centered around the school. That doesn't really work out. That doesn't work because it has two primary locations. Right, but we learned of this place after questioning Tetsuya. Incidentally, a vampire who attacked us didn't have any human rights, so we took advantage of that. Well, he's a vampire, he can't be human.
あれだけ容赦なくやっておいてよく言うわ。
Well, you didn't stop me either. I'd found myself unable to finish my friend off, even if it was a dream. But it would have been too risky to take him along or leave him be. A good thing there happened to be a deserted supermarket nearby. We had resorted to garlic. We stuffed garlic that they sold by the kilo at the supermarket into a polyethylene bucket. There you go. I almost forgot how to pronounce it. Along with Tetsuya.
あれは吸血鬼じゃなくても悲鳴あげるわよ。匂い取れるのかしら？
So, is he dead or is he suffering? Because, like, one's worse than the other. And, you know, I don't know, but since we went that far, I doubt he'll get in our way again. Oh, so he was tortured. By the way, we'd wrapped the bucket up in duct tape and left it. In the morning, if the dream hadn't ended, we would go rescue him. And this is better than killing him? Sure. And leave him to burn in the sun. So you're gonna kill him anyway after... See... Okay, sure.
さてと。それにしても、まさかこんなところに潜んでるだなんてね。
You know, I didn't have the heart to kill him. He's my best friend. So I left him in a bucket full of garlic. And if he's, you know, if the dream is still persistent until morning comes, we'll kill him then. Okay. Yeah. Well, our school has a lot of supplies, so you can hole up in there if you have to. As seen in Keiko's route. Because it was so big, there were even showers and nap rooms for the night duty people. There was the school store for food, so you could live there if you needed to. Hang on a minute. Nap rooms? Okay, showers, we know, right? We were told about that in Keiko's route, but nap rooms? If nap rooms exist, why did they sleep in the hospital? In the infirmary? Right? Okay. Based on Tetsuya's information, it seemed that a portion of the vampires were hiding at the school, and increasing their numbers. And Asahi and Hirosaka were there too. I wonder if Hirosaka is still human. I wonder if she could turn into a vampire at all.
どんだけうまく立ち回ってるかよね。
I couldn't really hope for that from Hirosaka. I suppose we'll find out. I didn't know where Yayoi got the crossbow, or the wooden arrow and silver arrows. Wooden and silver arrows. I feel like the wooden arrows would be more effective considering they would act like wooden stakes compared to the silver arrows, which would work on werewolves instead of vampires. I don't know why I sounded like I was cutting my sentences up. Okay. As for me, all I had was leftover garlic from when we talked with Tetsuya. See, he acknowledges that he's fucking torturing Tetsuya, but that's better than just killing him. Too bad we don't conveniently have something silver or a whip or something to use for vampire hunting. A whip or something to use for vampire hunting. Yeah, if only we had stands so we could use them against Dio.
ムチなんて何に使うのよ。トールってそんな趣味だったっけ？
He has to have been referencing Castlevania, right? When he brought up the whip, he had to have been referencing Castlevania. Yayoi frowned, apparently not familiar with the famous vampire hunting family. Yeah, no, he's talking about the Belmonts. He's talking about Castlevania. But that aside, Silver Bullet, was that effective against vampires?
それは狼男じゃないかしら。
See?
まあ、向こうの悪いのって一通り銀に弱い気がするけど。
I mean, I guess, but silver bullets are common. They're associated with werewolves, alright? I know I'm nitpicking a lot of things here, but I am enjoying myself. Silver sure is amazing. Yayoi checked the phone we'd stolen from Tetsuya. We'd sent a text that Tetsuya had captured me and was now wanted to meet up.
集合場所はトールたちの教室ね。都合がいいんじゃないかしら。
I could pretend to be a vampire and go in alone, and then you could spring a surprise attack. Although I'd rather not see my friends get shot, to be honest. The arrow looked really painful. I wish we could have removed them from Tetsuya before we left them. It depends on how the arrows were designed. Right? If they were designed to, stick into someone, then it would be more painful to try remove it.
しょうがないじゃない。ちょっと傷つけた程度じゃすぐに治っちゃうし。私が最初にどんな大激闘を繰り広げたか聞きたい？
But if it's designed more like a bolt, right, where it's... How would I say? Because, okay, you know how the classic arrow design is, where it sticks out at the end, right? And then you've got crossbow bolts, which don't do that. So, you can pull them out of someone without doing more damage by pulling it out of them. It sounds like it could fill the first 40 minutes of a movie, so I'm good. It'd be shorter if I left out the everyday stuff, said Yayoi lightly as she reached out to me.
それと、ニンニクは置いていきなさい。匂いでバレるわ。そんなもん、吸血鬼が持ってるわけないでしょ？
Considering he was carrying enough garlic to cover Tetsuya in it and trap him in a bucket. Right, surely that smell would be lingering on him, right? Just because he wasn't in contact with it doesn't mean he wasn't carrying a shit ton of it. So you want me to go in unarmed?
勇気と起点と根性あたりで。
I don't have enough of any of those things. She kissed me before I could finish.
勇気。まだ足りない？
I feel like that would just... Because Yayoi would also have the garlic smell on her, right? So being this close to Toru would just make him smell more like garlic. This wasn't fair. How could I not try after that? Alright, I'll go. I'll figure something out. There's a good possibility that Hirosaka was one of them now, so I had to be prepared to escape if necessary. But if Saki were here, she could probably pull out a gun easily. Actually, I say that Hirosaka can't be a vampire because she's one of the few people here who's actually in the dream and wasn't made in the dream, but Toru did turn into a girl. So, it's not like Keiko can't turn back into a human after being transformed into a vampire. She had suddenly changed the tone like that in an earlier horror dream too. What better time to pull out some heavy weapons than when you're trying to survive a town being taken over by vampires?
ないものねだりしてもしょうがないでしょ？というか、そのさきちゃんはどこでどうしてるのかしら？
I don't know what to say, because I have a bad feeling about this.
そうよね。
Yoi and I were probably imagining the same scenario. But it felt like saying it would make it come true, so we didn't.
それとアリスは？あの子、こういう時はきちんと抵抗だけはしてるイメージがあるんだけど。
Yeah, but like, she's too trusting of Keiko and Saki, and if they're already vampires, then she's definitely a vampire. She ate lunch with us and left. After that, she just wandered off somewhere, so I don't know. I wondered what she was up to, but there was no point in worrying.
まあ、ちょうどいいところで助けに来てくれることを祈りましょうか。
She's good at that. At any rate, Yayoi had already given me my dose of courage, so I did my best not to think of anything else. I entered the school. And then I wandered through the dark hallways alone. This wasn't my first time coming to the school at night in a dream, but the circumstances weren't quite the same then. Now there were vampires on the prowl, and they wanted to turn me into one of them. Honestly, it was freaky. Yeah, but it's better than getting chased by a plant version of you. Getting chased by an axe-wielding version of you, a plant-based never mind. I couldn't see very well with just the moonlight coming through the windows, but apparently they could see in the dark, so I couldn't turn on the lights. I tried to alter the dream to make it more convenient, but I couldn't change the fact that I couldn't see in the dark. So I had to rely on my intuition and memory. A good thing it was my school, at least. If it was a place I didn't know, I would probably be bumping into the walls. To be honest, even just walking down the halls like this, I could sense people in the classrooms. It felt like I was being watched, and I was pretty sure it wasn't just my imagination. I made a point to hide my fear. I had the feeling I would be attacked on the spot if they knew I was afraid. I hummed to feign composure as I walked down the halls. I went upstairs and walked down the halls. Then I arrived at a familiar classroom. Yo, Asahi.
トールくん、こんばんは。いい夜だね。
It sure is. Asahi smiled as gently as she always did. You would never guess that anything was different. Aside from her being here in the middle of the night, of course.
あれ？哲也くんは一緒じゃないの？
Oh, you know, he's just having a bath. In garlic. Against his will. And we're gonna kill him in the morning if the dream persists. Oh, when I was attacked by Tetsuya, Yuyoi came to stop him. After he made me this way, he chased after Yuyoi, who ran away. I tapped the spot on my neck. Tetsuya had tried to bite me over my shirt.
その時、哲也くん何か言ってた？
He said, "Rah! Yuyoi's blood!" as he eagerly chased after her. I was scared out of my mind, but I managed to keep my composure. Asahi didn't seem to notice my anxiety. She sighed like she usually did.
ほんとしょうがないな、哲也くんは。
Yeah. Always thirsting after your sister. He really is. I wonder if he said that knowing that I was going out with Yuyoi.
まあ、噛んだ人が親だから従うしかないよね。うん。まだ帰り討ちには会ってないみたいだけど。
Really? Is that also a part of the... Is that also a vampire role in this dream? I was relieved to hear that. If I had finished Tetsuya off back there, his master, Asahi, would have noticed. So I hear Hirosaka's here. Did you bite her too?
あの子まだ人間なんだけど、信じられないくらい大暴れして。こっちは力が強くなってるから、無理やり抑えようとしたら傷つけちゃいそうで。
Asahi stared at me. What is it? It was so dark that I could barely make out her expression, but I could tell she was looking at me. I honestly didn't know much about vampires, so my little act had my heart pounding. I thought maybe Asahi had noticed that.
なんていうか、トールくんも仲間になったってことは、お姉ちゃんとまだエッチしてなかったんだなって。
What are those two you haven't... What do you mean? With a mix of saliva and air powerfully spewed out of my mouth. What do these... What are they... What are you talking about? Maybe Asahi can clarify for me. That's my line. What are you saying?
いや、エッチしちゃってると、吸血鬼にはなれないで、ゾンビみたいになっちゃうんだけど。
I don't remember this being a rule that virgins that only virgins can become vampires. Come to think of it, I had heard something about girls having to be virgins, but that applied to guys too. That's what I'm saying. I remember, okay, other than girls having to be virgins, but if I'd been bitten, I would have been finished. It was way too close of a call. don't know what Yayoi said, but we haven't gotten that far yet. Teehee.
だよね。お姉ちゃんがもうしちゃったって言ってたから驚いたんだ。
Yeah, she must have been talking about something else. That has nothing to do with what you would think did it would actually mean. Another close call. What a dangerous plan Yayoi had thought up. If Asahi wasn't such a good girl, I would have been found out long ago. So, what are you going to do about Hirasaka? I changed the subject.
そうだよね。そのことなんだけどね。
Asahi probably thought I was changing the subject because I was embarrassed, and she was half right about that, because she didn't protest.
平坂さんがね、トールくんが来たら諦めて仲間になるっていうの。
Asahi grinned and looked at me with suggestive eyes. My eyes were gradually getting used to the darkness, allowing me to read her expression. I see. What's with that expression?
さきちゃんじゃなくて、お姉ちゃんを選んだのも不思議だったけど、トールくんにそんなこと言ってくれる女の子が他にいたんだなって思って。トールくんも、もしかして私の知らないところでいろんな女の子に声かけてるのかな？
Who's us in this situation? It's more like a coincidence. It hurts that you would think that I'm just like Tetsuya.
ほんと。哲也くんは私を一番だって言いながら、ああだもんね。
As Asahi laughed at his hopelessness, she opened the door to the classroom and walked in. I followed her.
先輩
Before Hirasaka could finish saying senpai, I stabbed the wooden arrow I'd been hiding into Asahi's neck. Sorry, Asahi. What? I don't want to kill Tetsuya, but Asahi, she's fair game. Unless you're like, no, stabbing her in the neck won't kill her. It'll just disable her indefinitely. What are you doing?
いや、何これ、体動かない。
It was the same sort of wooden arrow Tetsuya had been pierced with. I had it hidden in my I had it hidden in my pants the whole time. Never mind. Oh, is that a wooden arrow in your pants, or you just happy to see me? Never mind. After seeing that I had attacked Asahi, though I did feel guilty over it, Hirasaka's eyes seemed to shine. You know, that sort of thing you see in anime where your the body moves, leaving only the light of the eyes behind. Next thing I knew...
すいません、朝日先輩。
Hirasaka grabbed Asahi's sleeves, restrained her arms, and pushed her to the ground.
先輩、何か縛るものはないですか？
Well, there's this. I handed over the packing tape that had been conveniently lying at my feet.
まあ、十分でしょう。本当に申し訳ありません。
Hirasaka wound the tape all around Asahi. She also taped over Asahi's mouth, so all that she could do was moan. You could have said groan, and it would be less weird. It would have sounded less weird. Lastly, Hirasaka punched Asahi in her abdomen, knocking the wind out of her and caused her to pass out. Also, you didn't need that line from Asahi.
助かりました、先輩。
So, about the feeling like you're being watched by everyone in the other classrooms, what happened to them? Was that actually just a feeling, or was he right in assuming that there were other vampires around the school that will now attack him because he attacked Asahi? It didn't really seem like you needed my help there. You seemed my friend, and a girl at that, not only lying at my feet, bound in packing tape, but also with an arrow sticking out of her neck, it made it impossible to feel anything but guilt. It's better than garlic bath. Hirasaka, the perpetrator, didn't seem the least bit concerned as she lightly waved the hand she used to punch Asahi.
それで先輩、
私を助けに来てくれたんですか?
Well, yeah, but with that tragic scene next to me, this tragic scene next to me, I couldn't exactly be proud of what I just did.
だけど、何ですか?
Hirosaka took a step towards me. It looked like there were tears in her eyes. Had she been scared? She reached out to me. Just then, something shiny flew between us. I saw a silver arrow sticking out of the door next to us.
何をしてるのかしら?
Yayoi's upper body was leaning through the window. She must have climbed up in a hurry, and she was pointing her crossbow at us.
もう少しだったのに.
Okay, so she did turn into a vampire.
あんたね、トールは私の男なの。それをいくら夢だからって横からかすめ取ろうなんて虫が良すぎないかしら?
In a surprisingly athletic performance by Yayoi, meaning a fairly typical display of physical exhaustion by a normal person, she slowly made her way through the window and walked towards us. It was really surprising that she had managed to climb up. I wonder how she did it.
そんなに大事なら、なんでおとりになんて使ったんですか?
それでもちゃんと助けに来たじゃない。
She tore me away from Hirosaka and pulled me to her side. Obviously, she didn't point the crossbow at Hirosaka, but she did glare at her.
だいたい、これだって、稽古を助けるために来てあげたんだけど。
別にあなたに助けてほしいなんて言った覚えはないんですけど。
Neither of them looked away. Rather than sparks flying, it was more like the air was getting icy. From the other side of the door came footsteps. I hurriedly locked the door just as someone on the other side tried to open it.
くそ、鍵がかかってやがる。おい、こじ開けるか。
It sounded like they started kicking the door. How did they find out?
ルートウィッチ先輩が外をよじ登ってるところでも見られたんじゃないんですか?
ああ、いや、ありそうだけど。
They continued to hit the door.
朝日さんがやられたんだろ。くそ、中はどうなってやがる。そう、俺が蹴り破ってやる。
The door seemed like it was on the verge of breaking as the three of us looked at each other. This was bound to happen the second you knocked out Asahi.
なんですか? 私がやらなくてもこの女がどうせ撃ってたんじゃないんですか?
あらら、さっきは誰の責任って言ってたかしら?
And what do you mean, this woman? We didn't have time to have such an easygoing conversation. With a smashing sound, they kicked through the door. We should have at least used some desks or something to use as a barricade. To make a barricade. Just then, another sulfur streak flew past the side of my face and into the forehead of the first guy who came through. He staggered and fell. The guy next to him caught him. That's the line of the guy who got shot.
くそ、敵討ちだ。おい、一発このモテ男にかましてやれ。お、
He walked with his hands stretched towards us. There was no sign of life in his eyes.
あれ? 彼だけなんか吸血鬼というよりはゾンビ的な感じになってないかしら?
I guess he wasn't a virgin when he got turned into a vampire then.
お前まさか童貞じゃねえのかよ。仲間だと思ってたのになんてことだ。
He lowered the body of the guy who had been shot by Yayoi and grabbed the collar of the guy who was walking towards us.
抜け駆けしやがったな。相手は一体誰だ。まさか俺の妹じゃないだろうな。
I didn't know what this was about, but it was my chance. I grabbed another wooden arrow I'd hidden and mercilessly stabbed it into the back of the guy, grabbing the zombie. Following my lead, Yayoi fired an arrow into the last guy and fell to the ground.
しまった。油断した。
And he fell to the ground. That guy had probably been in the Christmas club too. I thought as I stepped over him and out into the hallway. Just then my cell phone rang. What? Hello? Regretting that I hadn't put my phone in silent mode, I quickly answered it.
あら、兄さん。無事だったのね。
Saki, is that you? I have a bad feeling about this, and I can pretty much tell where this is going, but where are you?
展開読めてるってどういう意味よ。
Saki sounded a little indignant. I mean, you're the leader behind this vampire mayhem, aren't you? Hirosaka was the only one who let out a surprised eh. In response to Saki's lack of a reply, Yayoi and I sighed. I knew it.
やっぱりって何よ。なんだかとっても理不尽なものを感じるんだけど。
Why did you do this anyway?
トール、気づいてる？
As she fit her crossbow with a new arrow, Yui came to my side. From both sides of the hallway, she could sense something approaching through the darkness.
挟まれてますね。どうしますか？
Saki, where are you?
あら、それを知ってどうするの？
If you defeat the lead vampire, then all the people that person turned into vampires will be defeated too, right? Wasn't that how the vampire legends went?
それが分かってて、どうして教えないとならないのかしら。
Because I'm your precious big brother? Yayoi gave me a look that said to get the information out of Saki at all costs. With the help of the moonlight coming in through the windows, I can now make out the figures walking towards us. It wasn't just one or two people. There were enough people to fill a whole classroom slowly walking towards us.
あの中に目の光がない人がいますけど、それはそういうことなんでしょうか？
I don't want to know. There were people I recognized among them. I really didn't think there would be that many. Saki, tell me why you did all this.
さあ、そういう夢だからそれに乗っかっただけっていうのもあるし、あとは
Saki giggled from the other end of the line.
兄さんにこのくらいの嫌がらせをしてもいいじゃない。
That's your real reason, isn't it? Your real reason, isn't it?
さあ、どうかしら。それじゃあ兄さん、弥生先輩と二人で頑張ってね。
Okay. I was worried about this. Wait, Saki, don't hang up! Just as she was about to end the call, there came the sound of glass breaking from two different places. One was from my phone, and the other was from somewhere far away, outside of the classroom. Confused, I looked outside. I probably wouldn't be able to see anything from here.
アリスさん？ちょっと何ですかその物騒な武器は。それにさっきからなんかあっちこっちで連絡取れなくなってる人がいるんですけど、まさか。
このままほっとけば町は吸血鬼に支配されちゃうけどね。だけど、ここで親玉を倒せばハッピーエンドだよね。
Whoosh slap, whoosh slap. Okay. I could hear the sound of something cutting through the air, and the sound of something flat hitting the ground.
危な！ちょっと、そんな趣味があったんですか？
これはヴァンパイアハンターとして伝統の武器でしょ。あ、覚悟しなさい。ちょっと。
The Kia came not just from the phone, but from outside as well. It was like surround sound. I closed my phone and put it in my pocket. I know where Saki is.
奇遇ね。私も分かったわ。
Oh, really? It's not like she's somewhere close, somewhere nearby where you could hear her outside of the phone.
方向からして、私たちの教室でしょうか。
The three of us looked in the direction of the annex building where the voice had come from.
それで、どうするの？
If it were just me and Hirosaka, we could go out the window, but here's a dream after all. If we use the drainage pipes and edges of windows, we could make it to the ground from this floor. But Yayoi wasn't that good at physical activity, so it would be impossible. We would certainly fail.
私を足手まとい呼ばわりとは、いい度胸じゃない。じゃあ、そうじゃないところを見せてもらえますか？
Hirosaka looked at Yuyoi out of the corner of her eye. The zombie-like students were almost upon us.
しょうがないわね。一応とっておきだったんだけど。
She rolled up her skirt and took out a cylindrical object attached to her thigh. It was the size of a soda can with a black latch-looking thing on the top. At the top, Hirosaka looked at it doubtfully, apparently not knowing what it was. That's a grenade, right?
大丈夫よ。派手に爆発するタイプじゃないから。こっちの言葉では、閃光弾っていうのかしら。
She smiled and pulled out the pin with her lips. For some reason. Hirosaka, don't look! I grabbed Hirosaka and turned her away from the stun grenade Yuyoi threw. For a moment, the hallway was filled with enough light to turn it bright white, brighter than midday.
ほら、行くわよ。
With a quick shooshing sound, a silver arrow went flying. It pierced the shoulder of one of the zombies, whose movements have gotten more sluggish, and he leaned backwards. A stun grenade does more than just blind the person it's used on, right? Right? You do know that that a stun grenade also deafens the person it's used on, right? And especially since you're in a hallway of a school building, right? Especially because you're indoors, right? Never mind. They didn't even bother to play a sound when she threw it. Sorry, but I don't think badly of me. I tackled him and over the path. I glanced behind me to see Hirosaka sigh, grab Yuyoi's hand, and follow after me. The stun grenade must have worked because the zombie's hands grasped at nothing as we weaved through them. I'm not used to this much action.
私の方がもっと苦手よ。
文句言う前に、二人とも走ってください。
Hirosaka pushed us through the rest. Saki! I threw the sliding door open and we entered the room.
あら、兄さん。思ったより早かったのね。
It was the same as with Asahi. Saki really didn't look any different from normal. But there were crosses, knives, and axes sticking out of the walls, and there were burn marks and pieces of glass scattered on the floor. And as a bonus,
さっきはあんなに逃げ回ってたくせに。
Alice seemed unhurt, but she was lying unmoving on the floor. As I expected, she was holding a whip in her hand.
アリスも無知？日本の吸血鬼に対するイメージって何なのよ。
Listen, I understand that Yuyoi doesn't know Castlevania. Right? Because, like, okay, Castlevania is a very popular series. Not so much around this time, because the most popular Castlevania game, which is Symphony of the Night, was an SNES game, and they didn't really make a good one until much later, right? Most of the time, Castlevania-like games would pop up around this time, and obviously much later with God, I forgot the name of it. But, you know, outside of the fact that Yuyoi probably doesn't play that many games, Castlevania as a series wasn't that well known. Unless you were really into video games. And Metroidvanias, I guess. I'll explain later. But Alice, it seems like you always lose.
そんなことないって。今日は調子が悪かっただけだってば。
Everyone gave her a doubtful look.
まあ、今回もアリスのおかげで、サキちゃんの場所が分かったといえば分かったんだけど。
Well, the fact that... Because, okay. Alice and Toru are in the know, right? They know ball. I can excuse Yayoi because she isn't Japanese and she doesn't, she probably doesn't play games. The same with Keiko. But, like, Saki? The one who is meant to be childhood friends with Toru? Right? You would think she would know. Right? You'd think Saki would know ball. Maybe not on the same level, but she surely shouldn't have been surprised that Alice used a whip against a vampire.
ほら、私役立たずじゃないって。
ですけど、助けに来る割にはいつも返り討ちに遭ってるイメージが。
It would be better if you, like, drove up in a military vehicle or something when we were being chased by zombies or vampires.
私、免許持ってないし。
This is a dream. We're surrounded by fucking vampires. I don't think you need a driver's license. I guess Santa's sleigh doesn't require a license.
だけど、その車で逃げた後って、ハッピーエンドにはなりませんよね。セオリー的に。
映画だったら、間違いなくもうワンシーンあるわね。大丈夫。そんな展開はもうないし、ここから逃がしてあげる気もないから。
You sure are calm. I faced Saki again. Even though Saki looked the same as she always did, my knees were shaking and I was tempted to turn around and run away.
トール、あなた哲也にもとどめをさせなかったのに、サキちゃん相手に戦えるの？
Well, he didn't seem to hesitate against Asahi, so maybe he thinks differently towards women. I don't have much of a choice, do I?
どうやってですか？
I stated what I had been thinking. We could aim for one of the vampire weaknesses, like how they're weak to sunlight. That must have been the reason they were sick during the day and didn't go outside. They're weak to water?
流れ水を渡れないよ。橋は渡れちゃうんだけど。
What about how they're not supposed to, how you're not supposed to feed them after midnight? What?
それ関係ないのが混ざってるわ。
Alice quipped from the spot on the floor. Hirosaka let out a short and that was when I realized. Saki, who had been ways away, was now right in front of me. She lightly touched my chest. What? How do you make that sound? That alone was enough to send me flying backwards and into the wall. I fell to the ground and onto my knees. It was a miracle that I didn't fall on my face.
まったく、そんなやる気のない態度でどうにかできると思っているの？まあ、もっともやる気があったところで、今の私と兄さんには圧倒的な差があるんだけど。
Not good. I'd only been hit once, and I couldn't move at all. It was hard to breathe, and I had barely seen what she'd done anyway. Saki slowly approached me. Her footsteps echoed with each step.
サキちゃん。
I hope to God that this isn't really Saki. Alright, please be Maya or fucking Alice or whoever the fuck she was in Saki's route. Yayoi aimed the crossbow at Saki, but Saki only glanced at it and continued walking towards me unconcerned. Saki was breathing strangely. When she reached for me, Yayoi finally pulled the trigger. There was a whoosh.
危ないわね。兄さんに当たったらどうするの？
But the silver arrow was caught between Saki's fingers, and it crumpled away like dirt. I thought you were weak to silver.
触ると熱いかしら。けれどまあ、銀はそんなに致命的な弱点っていうわけでもないし。
Saki put her hand on my jaw.
いいわ、その表情。ほんと、食べてしまいたいって、こんな気分なのね。
Uh-oh. Saki was tripping out a bit, and in a way that wasn't going to end well for me. But I can't afford to let you suck my blood.
あら、それは残念ね。でも大丈夫よ、兄さん。
You're not allowed to suck anything in front of Yuyoi.
きっとすぐに自分から血を吸ってくれって言い出すから。
Don't be ridiculous. Alice was no longer responding. Maybe she had fainted, or maybe she was planning something. But the whip she had been holding was now lying on the ground near me. Saki had seemed to hate it, so maybe there was some secret to this whip. Just as I reached for it, Alice said stupidly, with a look on her face like she wished she hadn't realized. Confused, I looked in the direction Alice was looking. In other words, towards Yuyoi. Hirosaka sank her fangs into Yuyoi's neck with a deeply unsatisfied look on her face. Aha. Okay, so she was a vampire. I was confused back there about what Keiko was talking about, but I guess okay, of course. Yeah, no, that's why she was sick in the morning. For a moment, I couldn't understand the situation. No, I knew what had happened, but my mind and body couldn't keep up. Okay, you didn't mean...
本当に、蓮野さんもひどい役目を押し付けてくれますね。
You didn't need to make those sounds, okay, and now Yayoi is going to turn into a zombie because she's not a virgin. Wiping the blood with her fingers, Hirosaka sighed. Wait, Hirosaka, you...
はい、何ですか？
Hirosaka let go of Yayoi and faced me like nothing had happened.
言っておくけど、平坂さんは最初から私の味方よ、兄さん。
Yeah, no, I gathered that just now. I wanted to go to Yuyoi, but Saki, who was standing in front of me, wouldn't even let me stand up. Even though her hand was just on my shoulder, I couldn't move at all. What was going on?
どうやって蓮野さんのところまで案内するべきか迷いましたけど、ちょうどアリスさんが手伝ってくれましたし。
Alice.
私悪くないってば
No, it really... Oh, never mind. Alice looked like she really wanted to protest, but she held back. More importantly...
いったー！ケイト！あんたいきなり何すんのよ！
Yuyoi previously had a glazed expression on her face, but now she suddenly grabbed Hirosaka.
私だって不本意だったんです。本当は、さっきから先輩の方を噛みたくて仕方なかったのに。
それはダメって言ったでしょ？本当なら私が兄さんを噛みたいんだから。
The two underclassmen sided at the same time. Alice, can you move?
トール、ここは私に任せて一人でも逃げて。
Wait. No. I'm misremembering. I for some reason remembered that it was Yuyoi and Alice who ate lunch with Toru in the morning, but no, it was Keiko and Alice. Right? I guess that my memory changed because of the fact that, you know, Saki was sick in the morning so that she couldn't go out into the sunlight because she's a vampire, right? And Yayoi didn't come to school either. So, you know, you could put two and two together. But Keiko did come to school, meaning she wasn't a vampire then, but she is now. You just wanted to say that, didn't you?
いや、二人とも逃がす気なんて全くないんだけど。それで、弥生先輩、調子はどうですか？
そうね。なんだろう。夜だっていうのに明るいのね。
But like, the fact that Yayoi didn't come to school this morning means... Was she already a vampire? Well, okay, no, that's a bit far-fetched to say because she was able to handle garlic pretty well. She held the part of her neck where Hirosaki had bitten her.
夜の世界ってこんなに綺麗だったなんて不思議な気分ね。
I mean, I could have told you that. You didn't need to get bitten by a vampire to be to realize this, right? But like, shouldn't Yayoi be a zombie? Because like, she's not a virgin. Yayoi, you just want to say that too, don't you? This isn't some manga.
実感すると変わるものね。それでさきちゃん、もしかしてなんだけど。
ええ。私や平坂さんだと、兄さんってば本気で抵抗するかもしれないですから。
Hey, wait, Saki, really, wait. Saki stood me up and pulled my hands behind my back. She was only holding me with one hand, but I still couldn't move at all.
本当はこのまま兄さんの首に噛みつきたいのに。
Saki murmured, sounded like she was in love. Her tone was so serious that it made me break into a cold sweat. Stop it! Let me go! I'll seriously get mad!
さ、平坂さん。
私も噛みたいんですけど、ダメですよね。しょうがない。ルートウィッチ先輩を仲間にしてください。
Are you saying that only guys turn into zombies if they aren't virgins?
うわ、トール一人なら見逃してもいいかなって思ってたのに今、命令されたせいか、急激に噛みたくて仕方なくなっちゃったわ。 うわー、わざとらしい。
Alice gave Yayoi an icy stare as she lay on the floor, but Yayoi ignored her and came up to me. Well, okay, no.
言っておくけど、自分を噛んだ親の命令は絶対ですよ。それがなければとっくに先輩は私が噛んでましたから。
You mean she's not faking it?
ごめんなさい、トール。本当はこんなことしたくないのに。
Why are you acting so meek? Are you trying to disguise what you're doing? Hey! Saki was holding my hands behind me, and Yayoi was in front of me. I saw Alice trying to sneakily crawl away, but Hirosaki noticed and caught her. Was it all over?
それじゃあ、トール。恥ずかしいから、目、つぶっててくれる？
You've never said anything like that. Yui ran her lips along my neck. That soft sensation and the knowledge of what was to come was strangely seductive.
大丈夫。優しくしてあげるから。
Like hell, it's okay. Naturally, she didn't listen to me. As I smelled the scent of Yuyoi's hair touching my face, I felt a sharp pain in my neck and... There was no more pain, just the sensation of something flowing into my neck. Then my vision went black.